do you share that concern? I mean, that this is one reason to be concerned about this case is the implications it might have for our revenue base?
Uh, yes, Bob, I think that's a real concern. Former Speaker Paul Ryan, Republican Paul Ryan, who presided over the House in developing and passing the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, he himself said that the court might yet blow up 1/3 of our tax code, depending on how it handled this case. And the case itself involves what appears to be a simple question, but it has very far reaching implications. The simple question being, can Congress tax unrealized or unreceived amounts? Can a taxpayer be forced to report as income amounts that the taxpayer has not yet received? It happens a lot in our society and our economy in which there are amounts from businesses and from investments that are not distributed, and we currently tax them. And this case might yet undercut decades of tax rules that Congress has enacted to collect taxes on those unreceived amounts.
Yeah, and that seemed to be the case that the appellants, the Moores in this case, were trying to make, that this particular tax, they say, was not a valid income tax because it was taxing income that they had not received, and that there needs to be this so-called realization requirement. And the government, of course, takes a position that it was a perfectly valid tax under the 16th Amendment because there was income. There was income to the corporation that is then imputed to these American owners, shareholders of the foreign corporation. This, I guess, what they were trying to establish is that there's a quote unquote realization requirement as a constitutional matter, and realization defined quite literally as you had to receive, cash or something. Whereas a lot of the tax code hasn't worked that way. I mean, do you think that realization in that sense is a constitutional requirement?
No. I worked for Congress for 6 years, helping Congress from both parties develop and draft tax legislation. And realization, or the receipt of cash or income, is not a prerequisite for taxation. That is the general rule. Normally, taxpayers don't pay tax until they receive cash or property. But there are plenty of exceptions, and those exceptions exist to close loopholes and to collect taxes in a fair and efficient manner. And if Congress were limited by the US Constitution and breathing fresh life into a century-old case that has largely been discredited, that dealt with whether or not income must be received or realized, that could yet invalidate, as I said earlier, large parts of our tax code and prevent Congress in the future from enacting other taxes. Mainly the taxes at risk are our international taxes, business taxes like partnership taxation, and capital taxes, investment returns. Because in those areas, these markets and the structures that are involved in these businesses and investments are quite complicated. And sometimes Congress imposes tax before cash is received. Not often. That's a departure for Congress. But it does happen. And if Congress were now prohibited from doing that, it would yet upend our tax code.